The tremor in his hand as he reached for you, that was the beginning. Have you ever witnessed that almost imperceptible shift, that fleeting vulnerability that surfaces when his gaze locks onto yours, and you know instinctively that something profound is stirring within him? The unconscious never equivocates. His words might dance around the truth, but his very essence has already made its irrevocable decree. It's you, irrevocably, achingly you. What if I unveiled the truth that the man who confounds you with his cryptic signals is drowning in an ocean of love deeper than even he fathoms? Carl Jung, the sage of the subconscious, illuminated the fact that our most primal emotions circumvent the conscious sentinel, manifesting through those telltale, uncontrollable behaviors. When a man's soul recognizes its counterpart in yours, his body becomes a traitor, leaking the secrets his lips dare not utter. Yet, so many women misinterpret silence as indifference, a tragic error, because it often masks the very antithesis. Authentic love doesn't trumpet its arrival with boisterous pronouncements or grandiose displays. Instead, it quietly, seismically reshapes his entire universe in subtle ways neither of you quite register. Until this moment. Now. Behold the unmistakable hallmarks of a soul that has irrevocably chosen you. Even if his conscious mind is still playing catch-up, that man who perplexes you with his enigmatic silences, his fleeting aloofness, punctuated by unexpected bursts of intimacy, might be far more consumed by you than he dares to acknowledge. Love, you see, doesn't always infiltrate through the gates of logic or articulate clarity. Sometimes it seeps in through dreams, through the way he surreptitiously drinks you in when he thinks you're unawares, through the subtle metamorphosis of his demeanor in your presence and yours alone. Jung wisely observed that what remains unconscious manifests in life as destiny, and that cosmic principle extends to the realm of love. If he hasn't yet risen to consciousness of the tempest raging within, his soul is already acting as his proxy, navigating him toward you with an unseen hand, towards the very depths of his being. So, how to discern the truth? What clandestine signals does his unconscious betray? His heart, his deepest yearnings, whisper a language all their own, even if his lips remain sealed. How can you know? This will be no vapid dissection. We will not dwell on the trivialities of text messages or saccharine romantic cliché-places. Instead, we will plumb the depths of what Jung termed symbols of the soul, decoding the unspoken language of a man whose very core vibrates in your proximity, even when he lacks the lexicon to fully comprehend the phenomenon. Before we proceed, I implore you to internalize each sign, for so often we stumble by expecting elaborate pronouncements, unwavering promises, or theatrical gestures. In our impatience, we allow the most precious treasure to slip through our fingers, the metamorphosis of someone's inner landscape when you become its inhabitant. Remember this. Jung expounded that true love isn't a matter of choice, not a meticulously crafted program. It erupts as an implacable force, dismantling our carefully constructed defenses and forging a conduit to the very essence of our being. Therefore, sharpen your intuition, hone your sensitivity, and observe with unwavering focus. If that man exhibits even a single one of these signs, if you have witnessed him reacting in any of these ways, it is because he is profoundly moved by you, ensnared in a love far exceeding the boundaries his rational mind is prepared to concede. I will unveil these signs, one by one, progressing from the most subtle nuances to the most overt revelations. This is not merely about ascertaining whether he loves you, but about witnessing the awe-inspiring spectacle of a soul responding to the alchemical power of genuine love, as love transcends all. When a man is profoundly touched by a feminine presence that reshapes his inner world, even if he lacks the verbal dexterity to articulate the transformation, his behavior undergoes a metamorphosis, a subtle shift that often eludes his conscious control. It changes everything, and the primordial sign lies in the subtle recalibration of his attention. This isn't the brazen attention of a peacock preening to impress or angling for reciprocation. It's something far more delicate, more authentic, more profound. He becomes attuned to the minutiae that would escape the notice of others. The truth simmering beneath your "I'm fine," the subtle alteration of your hairstyle that went unmentioned, the almost imperceptible tremor in your voice that signals a hidden disquiet. This type of hyper-attentiveness doesn't stem from superficial interest, but from a profound connection that burgeons from the very depths of his being. Jung posited that true emotions project themselves, yearning to be deciphered. And this compels this kind of man to react from his core, driven by an authentic impulse rather than a calculated strategy. He doesn't need the habitual rhythm of daily encounters to keep you etched in his memory. You might find that he mentions you unexpectedly, in moments you wouldn't anticipate, or he circles back to a question left unanswered, or he materializes for no readily apparent reason. This isn't driven by mere habit, but by the unconscious current that pulls him inexorably towards you. He is grappling with something he can't quite define, a force that propels him forward against his will. This is not obsession or unhealthy dependence. It's emotional resonance, pure and simple. Your energy has struck a chord deep within him, and that resonating chord begins to sing, transcending the need for words. Another potent sign is the discernible shift in his demeanor when he is in your presence. Some men maintain a consistent persona across all interactions. But when a man is genuinely smitten, even subconsciously, his attitude undergoes a noticeable transformation when he's with you. He might appear more disarmed, more vulnerable, more open, even endearingly awkward. True love isn't about projecting an image of flawless perfection. It's about dismantling pretense and revealing the raw, authentic human beneath. If you perceive that he allows himself to lower his carefully constructed guard only with you, if you find solace in silences that are not laden with discomfort but pregnant with unspoken meaning, then you are encountering something that transcends mere fleeting infatuation, something far deeper and lasting, and there's more to be revealed. Jung maintained that the soul fiercely protects that which it cherishes, and this man might begin to express concern for your well-being in ways that defy logical explanation. He might exhibit an unwavering desire to ensure your safety, your comfort, your nourishment, as if your happiness is directly linked to his. This isn't about exerting control or inflating his own importance. It stems from an internal imperative, a primal instinct that has awakened within him, compelling him to feel responsible for your well-being, as if his own equilibrium depends on yours. And when that transpires, when a man begins to care for you with that selfless devotion, without seeking acknowledgement or expecting recompense, it is because, deep within his being, he has already integrated you into the very fabric of his inner world. Even if he remains silent, even if he struggles to comprehend it, even if he vehemently resists the notion, his soul has already forged an unbreakable bond with yours, a connection that transcends the confines of the rational mind. Therefore, if you are witnessing these signs, if each word resonates with a deep, visceral truth, do not dismiss them lightly. Do not allow yourself to be misled by his outward reserve. The maelstrom raging within him is far more monumental than it appears. The beginning of his future. Stay with me, because what follows will expose even more profound indicators, those that only a genuine, soul-deep connection can manifest as something eternal. There are those moments when a man need not utter a single syllable for his very essence to betray his inner state. It is as if his mere presence becomes a language of its own. He might not have professed his love with resounding declarations. He might not have spun grand promises or mapped out intricate future scenarios with you. But there's an undeniable something in the way he observes you, in the subtle alteration of his breathing when you draw near, in the comfortable silence he maintains by your side, devoid of the need to fill the void with superfluous chatter. And that silence is not a void, not an absence of articulation, but a state of complete, unwavering presence. It is the communion of his soul with yours, unburdened by interference. Because when a man is more captivated by you than he dares to vocalize, his body becomes an open book, revealing the unspoken narrative of his heart. Observe his reactions when others speak of you. If you are in a group setting and someone lavishes you with praise, fix your gaze on his expression. If someone levels criticism against you, notice the subtle shift in his demeanor. Love doesn't require conscious deliberation to rise to the defense of that which it values. His instincts will take the helm, even if his mind is still mired in confusion. Jung astutely pointed out that the unconscious operates through pathways all its own, and we are often guided by emotions that have yet to acquire a name or a conscious understanding. If a man visibly reacts, even with the subtlest flicker of his eyes, when someone utters your name, it is because something within him has already decreed that you hold a significance far exceeding his initial estimation. Another irrefutable sign lies in his persistent, unwavering effort. When someone harbors genuine feelings for you, they invest effort, even in the seemingly insignificant details. This doesn't demand grand theatrical gestures. It manifests in the attentive way he listens, in his uncanny ability to recall details you shared long ago, in the flexible way he molds his schedule to accommodate you, even in the sincerity of his apologies when he perceives that he has fallen short. That silent, unyielding effort speaks volumes, far exceeding the power of 1,000 empty words. For someone who feels nothing remains immobile, indifferent, but someone who loves, even if they haven't fully grasped the magnitude of their feelings, make space, a place for you. Not out of obligation or a desire to impress, but because their inner world is undergoing a seismic rearrangement, making room to welcome you within its borders. And here's something that often escapes notice. When a man is deeply touched by your presence, he begins to transform even in your absence. His routine is disrupted. His thoughts become more erratic, more elusive. He might appear distracted, lost in contemplation, or plagued by a subtle restlessness. It is as if something has been activated within him, and he can't quite pinpoint the catalyst. Yet, you remain omnipresent, an invisible force occupying his thoughts, his emotions, disrupting the automatic pilot that once governed his actions. Jung spoke of the potent influence of internal figures, their capacity to transform the individual even without physical proximity. And you, without deliberately seeking to, have become such a figure, an inhabitant of his inner sanctum. Even if he denies it, even if he actively resists the notion, you are already indelibly etched within him. That is why you must resist the temptation to be swayed by superficial appearances. Many men suppress their emotions, not out of a lack of feeling, but because they struggle to translate the language of the soul into the rigid vocabulary of logic. And that is where you, with your heightened perception, can penetrate the veil and see beyond the surface. You can intuit what he himself has yet to discover, that his heart has already cast its die and made its decision. Stay with me, for there are even more signs that betray this silent yet overwhelming love, one that perhaps will permanently alter your understanding of love in its purest form. A subtle but significant transformation unfurls within the heart of a man in love, one that often escapes initial detection. It is a gradual, almost imperceptible shift, yet profoundly powerful in its implications. This transformation manifests when he begins to relinquish certain attitudes that were previously ingrained in his daily life. Perhaps he habitually avoided commitments. Perhaps he maintained a calculated emotional distance from others. Or perhaps he simply existed in a state of self-sufficient individualism. But since your arrival, something has been stirring within him, shaking him from his complacent equilibrium. Solely thinking of himself no longer suffices. He begins to carve out a mental and emotional space that he was previously unwilling to concede. And he doesn't undertake this as a sacrifice, a begrudging concession. He does it almost instinctively, as if his very soul were adapting to a new reality that beckons him from the depths of his being. Take note if he has begun to share aspects of his life with you that he previously guarded from everyone else. I'm not alluding to trivial details, but to intimate fragments of his past, his deepest fears, his past mistakes, his most cherished, long-held dreams. When a man is connected to you on that profound level, he begins to reveal his unfiltered humanity. Not because he seeks your approval or desires to project an image of flawlessness, but because he begins to trust in a way he has never before experienced. At that juncture, it transcends the superficiality of conquest, the calculated maneuvers of a seduction game. It becomes an act of surrender. And that surrender, though it might appear subtle, is the ultimate testament to a profound internal shift. Jung asserted that the soul requires a mirror to perceive itself, and you, through your very presence, become that mirror. He begins to see you, and simultaneously, he begins to perceive himself in a new and transformative light. Another detail that frequently goes unnoticed: how does he respond to your emotions? Not everyone possesses the skill to navigate the emotional intensity of another. But when a man is truly invested in you, he begins to emotionally synchronize with you, almost unconsciously. He senses your joy, and his face breaks into a smile. But he also becomes visibly uneasy when he detects your sadness. Even if he lacks the perfect words of comfort, his energy palpably shifts in response to yours. He might not utter the obligatory, "Are you okay?" every time, but you will perceive it in the depth of his gaze, in the softening of his voice, in the way he gravitates toward you, unsure of how to alleviate your pain, yet driven by an unwavering desire to do something, anything. That inherent drive to accompany you through your emotional landscape, even without possessing the roadmap, is one of the most genuine expressions of subconscious love, a devotion beyond mere desire. And perhaps the most telling sign of all lies in what transpires when you are not physically present. Observe his conduct in your absence. Does he casually mention you in spontaneous conversations? Does he mentally bookmark things to share with you later? Does he experience something significant and instinctively reach for his phone to share it with you? In those moments when there is no tangible presence to motivate him, if you continue to occupy a prominent place in his inner world, in his thoughts, in his emotions, then there is no lingering doubt. He is far more deeply ensnared than he dares to admit. Because what persists in absence eclipses what is spoken in presence, as the silent language of love transcends the mundane. And that is not mere coincidence. That is the soul speaking its immutable truth, even when it is the most dangerous truth of all. All of this isn't about deciphering another person's inner thoughts. It is about learning to perceive with the heart. Because love doesn't always manifest in the form of articulated pronouncements or unwavering certainties. It arrives through the subtle signals that the soul emits when it begins to recognize its kindred spirit in another. Stay near, for what follows will reveal how love behaves when it can no longer be contained, when it bursts free. There arrives a juncture when a man, even unwittingly, begins to crave your presence, not as a mere habit, but as a fundamental element of his equilibrium. He won't articulate this longing with florid romantic pronouncements or meticulously staged declarations. But there is a palpable shift in his energy, a subtle disturbance that ripples through his being every time you are apart. He might not express it directly, but you will discern it in his barely veiled impatience when communication lags. In the uncanny way he materializes just as you are on the cusp of forgetting him. In the fact that any excuse, no matter how tenuous, seems sufficient to justify drawing near to you once more, even if only for a fleeting instant. This is not obsession. It is not unhealthy emotional dependence. It is the purest form of genuine connection. The kind that springs from a depth so profound that even he struggles to articulate why he finds himself thinking of you so incessantly. And that, according to Jung's astute observations, makes perfect sense because the unconscious is not tethered by the constraints of logic or the boundaries of time. It exists in its own dimension, with dimensions that are not quite knowable. When a true emotion takes root within that realm, it begins to take tangible form in thoughts, in impulses, in decisions, in the tapestry of his very being. And one of the most potent ways in which this transformation manifests is in the burgeoning significance he ascribes to your opinion, even in matters that don't directly involve you. Perhaps he begins to share his life aspirations with you, seeking your perspective, not to curry favor or project an image of compatibility, but because he genuinely cares about knowing whether his vision aligns with yours. He doesn't do this with the calculated intention of impressing you, but because, almost imperceptibly, you are becoming a guiding presence in his emotional compass, the person he looks to most of all. He might even begin to confide in you his vulnerabilities, his moments of doubt, his private insecurities, because he feels safe to do so. And that is not because he views you as a substitute therapist or because he lacks the capacity to manage his own emotions. It is because his soul has detected in you a safe harbor, a sanctuary where he can shed his armor, discard his carefully crafted strategies, and present himself in his unvarnished, authentic form. And when a man attains that level of emotional transparency with you, all barriers crumble as all walls come down. Because love isn't constructed upon the foundation of unwavering certainties, but upon the audacious possibility of embracing vulnerability without the paralyzing grip of fear. That implicit trust he bestows upon you, even without fully grasping the implications, is one of the most unadulterated expressions of profound, abiding love. But what ultimately solidifies the truth is the burgeoning way he begins to envision his future with you woven into its very fabric, as you begin to be present in all areas of his life. Even without any direct prompting from you, you discern this subtle inclusion in his casual mentions of the future. He might utter something along the lines of, "Someday I'd love to visit such and such place." And within that fleeting vision, you are an unspoken yet undeniable presence. He doesn't overtly declare it, but he subtly implies it in the way he sets the stage. And those fleeting phrases, those spontaneous images that spring forth from the depths of his unconscious, are open portals into the labyrinth of his soul, doors to the chambers of his heart. In his innermost thoughts, you already form an integral part of his journey, not as a transient guest, but as a permanent fixture in his ideal world. And you needn't resort to pressure tactics or demand definitive pronouncements, because the soul, when it loves, expresses itself through the most unassuming gestures, the smallest of things. And if he is exhibiting these signs, if his energy, his actions, and his attention are increasingly gravitating toward you in an effortless, organic manner, then what exists is genuine, even if he hasn't yet fully understood it, even if he lacks the courage to confess it aloud. Because when the soul has made its unwavering choice, the rest is merely a matter of time, as time itself fades away. And in that interim, you can perceive with the eyes of the soul what the mind still hesitates to articulate, an understanding of what lies ahead. Stay with me, because there is still more to be unveiled about love. When a man begins to look at you as if you were an irreplaceable part of something precious he cannot bear to lose, a profound shift occurs in the very essence of his relationship with you that resonates within all of his being. And that shift isn't superficial. It's not merely about him becoming more demonstrative or seeking you out with greater frequency. It is about how his soul begins to reorganize his world around the axis of your existence as everything spins and changes. Because when a feeling is authentic, the other person transcends the status of an addition and becomes an indispensable component of the whole, becoming everything. You will witness this in the subtle ways he begins to prioritize you, even when he doesn't explicitly state it. Perhaps he is grappling with a demanding day, assailed by countless obligations vying for his attention. But even amidst the chaos, he makes his presence known, not out of a sense of duty, but because he simply cannot bear the thought of being absent from your world, as you have become so vital to him. Because being in your presence, even in silent communion, bestows upon him a profound sense of peace, a feeling beyond measure. And peace, while often undervalued in the realm of love, is one of its most crucial cornerstones. It transcends the fleeting thrill of butterflies in the stomach or the intoxicating rush of excitement. True love, the kind that gestates in the depths of the unconscious, the kind that Jung meticulously studied and recognized as a transformative force, also manifests in that quiet serenity, that unwavering sense of belonging that one experiences in the company of someone who doesn't demand that you be anything other than your authentic self to be worthy of love. When he feels at peace with you, when he senses that he can lower his defenses, that he can embrace his imperfections and still be met with unwavering acceptance, then he begins to perceive you as a home, not a mere physical structure, but an emotional sanctuary, the place that he returns to most of all. And when that transformation transpires, he begins to do something that often escapes immediate detection. He begins to align with you, without any explicit prompting from your side. Perhaps he discovers a newfound appreciation for activities that ignite your passions. He becomes invested in your ideas, your dreams, the things that make your soul soar. This isn't a matter of sacrificing his individuality, of subsuming his identity to yours. It's about realizing that there is immeasurable beauty in sharing what was once exclusively his own, in the things that were once just his. This is no mere coincidence. According to Jung, when two souls begin to resonate in harmonious accord, the rigid internal boundaries soften and blur, as does the division between them. And it is at that juncture that true intimacy blossoms. Transcending mere physical desire, transcending fleeting attraction, it is that quiet sense of silent belonging, the unspoken understanding that transcends the need for verbose explanation. Furthermore, pay close attention to how he defends you in your absence. Perhaps you are not privy to these moments, perhaps you never witnessed them firsthand. But in unguarded conversations, in moments when you are not even present, he takes a firm position in your defense. Not because he anticipates any personal gain from doing so, but because, deep within his soul, he senses that safeguarding you is intrinsically linked to safeguarding something he has come to cherish above all else. Love does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it expresses itself through gestures that escape the notice of all others. And that kind of love, the kind that silently defends, even in your absence, is the most potent of all, the kind that moves mountains. So, if he exhibits these telltale signs, if he subtly alters his routine without conscious awareness, if he attends to your needs in ways that are often invisible to the outside world, if he factors your thoughts and feelings into his major life decisions, do not dismiss these indicators out of hand. You are confronting an emotional truth that even he himself has yet to fully grasp, the depths of which are astounding. And it is within that uncharted territory that the purest essence of love is born. In the part of ourselves that hasn't yet been tainted by fear, by irrationality, or by the lingering scars of past wounds. Stay close, for we are on the precipice of unveiling the most profound signs of a love that can no longer be suppressed. Signs that defy words. And when we reach that culmination, when all the disparate signs converge, when you reflect upon the journey and realize that that man has undergone a transformation without even realizing it, that his actions, his silences, his most mundane gestures speak more eloquently than any carefully crafted declaration, as the truth speaks for itself. That is when you arrive at the most profound understanding of all. That true love doesn't always manifest in a flamboyant, attention-grabbing manner. It doesn't always arrive accompanied by a symphony of fireworks or flawlessly rehearsed declarations of adoration. Sometimes it arrives in the guise of steadfast presence, of unspoken, unwavering care, of a tenderness that seeks no witnesses, that simply exists in the world. And when a man is more deeply in love with you than he even imagines, his soul has already rendered a verdict that his conscious mind is just beginning to comprehend, that will one day be known. Jung imparted to us the wisdom that the unconscious does not lie. It can never lie. That within the deepest recesses of our being resides a truth that manifests itself through symbols, through emotions, through actions that we don't always fully understand, but that are undeniably real. And if you are witnessing these signs, if you have felt this intangible connection, if something deep within you whispers that what exists between you is not mere happenstance, listen to that inner voice. Trust your intuition with no holding back. Because often, what we mislabel as doubt is simply the conscious mind struggling to comprehend what the soul already instinctively knows, the truth in its entirety. In the final analysis, what we seek is not the hollow echo of a flawlessly worded declaration of love, but the authentic resonance of a soul that has quietly, irrevocably chosen ours. The signposts aren't emblazoned in grand proclamations, but etched in the subtle alchemy of rearranged priorities, in the invisible gravitational pull that draws him back into your orbit, even when logic offers no rational explanation. Jung understood that the most profound connections transcend the limitations of our conscious intellect. They emerge from the very depths of our being, the untouched sanctuary where our authentic selves reside, unmarred by fear or strategic calculation. When a man rearranges his inner world to elevate you to an indispensable position within its tapestry, when his energy subtly shifts in your presence and resonates even in your absence, when he offers his vulnerability without the shielding of armor, this is the love that precedes words, the silent recognition that transpires at the level of pure being, a truth beyond words. He is offering himself entirely and only you. Trust the quiet wisdom of your own intuition and listen to your heart. It perceives the subtle nuances that rational thought often overlooks. For in this intricate dance between conscious and unconscious, between what is explicitly said and what is viscerally felt, lies the most transformative truth of all, a transformation that will never die. Sometimes the heart arrives at its destined destination long before the mind even realizes that the journey has commenced, for its soul has already traveled beyond the world. And if you've borne witness to these silent testimonies woven into someone's actions, rest assured, his soul has already whispered what his lips have yet to confess, and that one day those lips will part. He is much more profoundly in love with you than he can possibly imagine at the start of something new. He is yours,